Good afternoon, good morning, good evening to everybody on the call today and on this webinar from Hotel, an initiative for Bidroom, and each one of the episodes are built based on surveys of thousands of hotels about which topics they would like Hotel to cover. Today, we talk about something that is more close to us than ever during these very challenging periods, talking about people, prosperity, and the environment. In a nutshell, sustainability. We're not here to debate what sustainability means, but I think it has become clear to each and every one of us that we need to safeguard human beings, what we're doing in the future and what we're doing with our planet and how we behave in order to have sustainable business, a sustainable hospitality product, and make sure we do the right things for us to prosper again coming forward. My name, Simon Lehmann. I'm the CEO and co-founder of AJL Consulting. We're a boutique consulting firm in vacation rental and short-term rentals based in Switzerland. We're acting global, and it is an honor for us to actually host this conference today for Hotel. And I am based in Switzerland. We have a lot of people coming from around the world joining us in all different time zones. We have all different levels and people in different functions in this industry, owners, channel managers, students, everybody who are passionate about hospitality, and so are we at AJL Consulting in a different fashion. So it's a great honor to moderate this conference today. We have once again amazing speakers to cover the topic of sustainability in totally three different fashions, which makes it extremely engaging. And one thing I would like to mention before we get on with the conference, if you have any questions during the presentation, you can raise those in the Q&A of the Zoom functions, and I will pick those up after each presentation of each speaker, and we'll see what we can throw to the speakers. If there's too many and we cannot cover all of them, then they will be answered individually by the individual speakers with the post-conference email that is going to be sent by Hotel. So therefore, we're looking forward to what our three speakers are about to share with us today, which I'm extremely excited about. Myself, I'm also serving on the board of myclimate.org, which is the largest carbon offset foundation in Switzerland. We support a lot of projects around the world for carbon offsetting in Rwanda, in India, and in other areas where we support and fund sustainability projects to carbon offset. And therefore, it's very close to what I do as a board member of this organization. And we also work a lot with hotels and other travel institutions who want to offset their carbon and invest into projects for a good, sustainable world. So without further ado, I would like to introduce the panelists to you in the order of them speaking. First of all, there's Christof Burgbacher, founder and managing director at consulting Elementerre. He's based in Marrakesh. Then second, no less than Michael Ross, co-founder and CEO of Bidroom, currently based in Krakow in his home address. Cláudia, Lisboa, technical coordinator at UNWTO, based in Madrid. So, as we said, after each presentation, there will be an audience for 5 minutes Q&A, when you'll be able to ask questions for the panelists. Please use the Q&A section to post your questions. You can also upvote other questions that you want to have answered on the panel. So now let's give voice to our speakers. Our first speaker is Christof Burgbacher, founder managing director at consulting Elementerre. He can introduce himself directly to you.
Yes, thank you, Simon. I'm very pleased to be with you. I'm I first of all would like to say thank you to I Meet Hotel. I was kind of surprised when I received the invitation because it was the first one since a long time without the word Corona or crisis. I think it's quite important that we continue to speak about sustainability and, for my part, about the social part of the sustainable development. I will introduce myself very shortly. I'm from the hotel industry. I did my formation in Germany. I'm working right now for about 20 years in the hotel industry. I moved to Morocco, or to Marrakesh, in 2012, doing for an hotel opening for a German hotel group. And when I discovered the potential of Morocco in terms of sustainable tourism, I decided to stay, to leave this company, and I founded Consulting Elementerre. We work with hotels, we work with destinations, helping them to improve their sustainable development. And we work also with international organizations which are working in the field of sustainable development projects. So we do a lot of projects in rural areas. We worked for sure in Morocco, but also in Tunisia. So my subject today, as I told you, just 1 second. Christian, I have a problem with the, can you put a slide? Yeah, thanks. So as I said, we will talk about social sustainability, and although Simon said in his introduction, next slide please, said that we all know that sustainability is much more than just protecting the environment. I think that we still have like a confusion of terms. So terms like rural tourism, responsible tourism, ecotourism, they are kind of still mixed up. And I want to make clear that sustainability includes 3 pillars. So we have to work on each of these pillars to really improve in terms of sustainable development. There's one more expression I want to explain that's called social tourism. That's not what we are talking about today. Social tourism means much more to allow financially disabled people to travel or to go on holidays. Next slide, please. This definition or this concept of the 3 pillars is also confirmed by the definition of sustainable tourism by the United Nations World Tourism Organization. I think that Cláudia will give us more details about that, but I just wanted to show you that this is the global definition of sustainable tourism. That we have to focus on visitors, on the industry, on the environment, but also on local people. Next slide, please. The hospitality industry has a direct impact on local people, but as one of the biggest job creator, also on human resources. And unfortunately, in both areas, the industry does not always fulfill his intended role. But working on an improvement means to work also on 3 of the most important sustainable development goals. The first one is the goal number 1, no poverty. The second one is goal number 5, gender equality. And the third one is the goal number 8, decent work and economic growth. And I'm showing you these goals because we noticed when we work with hotels that these goals can also be a tool for communication. These tools are known by more and more people, and sometimes it's easier for them to understand when a hotel works on these goals than, for example, when it works on criteria from some certification or labels, which most of people don't really know. So these goals can be used for external communication with guests, but also for internal communication with employees, because they give a bigger picture of the direction in which a hotel wants to go. Criteria of labels and certification can still be useful. I'm not saying that the hotel should not get a certification. They can really help to get an improvement step by step. And the sustainable development goals, as I said, give a bigger picture. Next slide, please. When I say that the industry needs improvement, I refer to a lot of conflicts we had between tourism and the local population. 2018 was the official year of sustainable tourism, but it was also a year in which we had a lot of negative news about tourism, a lot of conflicts. Think about cities like Venice or Barcelona, Berlin, or even in some other countries in rural areas. We had a lot of conflicts between tourism and local people. And these conflicts were not mainly about the environment. They were much more about the social impact of tourism. So the increase in the cost of living, the disruption of the daily life of people, these were the main reasons for these conflicts. And we have some easy actions or tools at our disposal we can use. First of all would be to inform our guests, to inform our visitors, to say at least avoid a negative impact on tourism. I'm not talking about having a positive impact, but to avoid a negative impact. And second one is when the industry, the tourism industry, supports local employment, the local economy, then people will develop much more understanding for our business. Next slide, please. So improvement in terms of human resources, we all know that there are a lot of things to do, and I'm aware that it's a really wide subject. And I also know that hotel managers are not doing any social work or running a business to save the planet. But it's about preparing for the future, and we need our employees, we need the employees of a hotel for sustainable development. Sustainable development without employees, without the involvement of employees is almost impossible, because we need employees who know their hotel. We need employees who help the hotel to improve day by day. And we need employees who help to communicate on the efforts a hotel takes. So for that reason, we need to train them. We need to put them in the right work conditions, and then they can really be a key to a better improvement in terms of sustainable development. Next slide, please. So when we work with hotel managers, with decision makers, when it comes to social sustainability, for them, it's not that concrete as when we talk about the ecological sustainability, because when it comes to protecting the environment, you have a lot of equipment. It's much more concrete than when it comes to social development. But as I said before, it's really preparing for the future. We have in a lot of countries, people are struggling to attract talented young people because they don't agree with the working conditions. Guest satisfaction today is much more than just the quality of service. It's about the values a hotel stands for. And the generation Friday for Future, these young people who are fighting for that we care about our environment, these are our next guests. These are our guests in a very close future, and they will not stop at requests about the environment questions or requests about social sustainability will be very, very important. And in some countries, they already are as important as the other ones, maybe even more important. Next slide, please. So the question is, how can we reach our stakeholders? How can we get in contact with them? And the first thing we should do, we should stop to assume things. We should start to ask the right questions, and we should start to get concrete information from the involved people, from our target groups. So as I said before, nobody knows a hotel better than his employees, and they don't just have to put actions into practice. They can really be a source of new ideas, of innovative solutions. Guests have a new view on the hotel. They can help us to make ideas. We should not only ask them if they like something or not. We should also ask them if, for example, the first steps we have taken in terms of sustainable development, if this is respected. You all know this famous things about the towels. So when I want the housekeeping that they change it, I put it in the shower. And we all know that that's not done in this way in every time. And then we start to do something which we clearly shall avoid. That's greenwashing, because we say something to the guest which is not respected in reality. And there our guests can be really, really helpful when we ask them the right questions. The connection to local people is essential for social sustainability. And that means that we not only have to talk with some representatives, we need to ask as much people as possible. We need a wide range of opinions to then allow the decision makers to make the right decisions and take the right conclusions. And the origin of products, as you all know, is getting more and more important. And it's that important because it's a proof of the commitment of the hotel, because it's something a guest sees. So when he sees something he eats is coming from the region, when the amenities in a room, the products he uses for his spa. So he can see these products with his eyes, and they are really a proof of the commitment of a hotel. Next slide, please. So creating participation processes is maybe something new in the tourism industry. The time of idea boxes, as much as I like them when I worked in hotels, or doing surveys in the city center, is over. We have today digital solutions at our disposal, which makes things much more easier for us. And they allow us to generate results which we can then implement. So when we work with destinations or hotels, the first question we ask is, what are the target groups? What are the issues you want to work on? And then it's about asking the right questions and put them in the right tools. I would go again to hotel employees. Digital solutions are allowing all employees to see the different proposals which are made in a hotel. So for example, when at the reception somebody makes a proposal to reduce the use of paper, and somebody in another service sees that, then they start to discuss this proposal. They do some modification. They think about how can we use that in our service. And this is the way to start. This is the way to involve employees. This is the way to create a new corporate culture, and in this way to improve the sustainable development. Thank you very much for your attention, and I'm looking forward to your questions.
Thank you very much, Christof. There has been quite a bit of input also on the chat as well as on the questions. I mean, there are amazing topics out there right now and we could have a long conversation about the particular questions. You talked about what is happening in the future. You know, how do working conditions look like for employees? What are the true values going forward as well? I think one thing I would like to address here particularly is how do you see, and I tried very hard in my introduction not to talk about COVID-19, and you alluded to that at your introduction. So you destroyed my plan, but that's perfectly fine since we are all in the midst of it. But you know, one of the big questions that we have overall is the traveler behavior going to change fundamentally, and what are they looking for in terms of sustainability when it comes to hotels? You know, there's surveys showing that people want to make sure, you know, it's sustainable, but at least they still use air travel. So a lot of conflicting things going on in travel. Obviously, we're far away from solar and electric planes, but going to your behavior, how do you believe that the consumer behavior, and I'm using the word post-COVID-19, is going to fundamentally change, and therefore it will become even more important for hotel operators and owners to change the way they communicate to customers to address all the points that you've mentioned in your presentation?
Honestly, I don't know, Simon. I don't know if behavior will change. That's what I said in my presentation. We have to ask customers. You know, I see so much papers right now how tourism will look like after COVID. We don't know. We don't know yet. This is the first time we are facing something like this. And when I talk about participation, I think Corona would be the perfect example that participation is even more important. Think about the local population of cities receiving again visitors. Are we right now sure how they want that all this will happen? Should we not ask them today? Should we not ask people in Barcelona, in Paris, in Berlin, how tourism should look like after Corona? That's why I say participation is that important. Let me take it quickly to the employees in hotel. When we talk about guest safety, we also have to talk about the safety for employees. They have the biggest risk, in my opinion. Yeah, a receptionist who does, I don't know, 20, 30, 50 check-ins a day with different people. So for that, when we ask after restart, after 1 month, after 2 months, we ask the employees, what do you think? What is the feeling of guests? How do you feel? What can we change? That's why I'm saying that participation is that much important and that we really have to implement this part in our work.
Absolutely, and I could totally not agree with you more. Now, looking at the time, moving on, we would be able to have a lot more conversations around this topic. So we need to protect our staff, number one, which I totally agree with. And secondly, we need to ask more questions. Do we know our customers? And do we know really what they want? And can we serve those requirements? And I think that is really what's the essence of this. And thank you, Christof, for your presentation. But now time is pressing. We need to move on. Now we're going from Marrakesh all the way back to Krakow in Poland, where we have Michael Ross streaming directly from his garage, which has been absolutely pimped to its max, which is fantastic to have you, Michael, today. Michael Ross is the co-founder and CEO of Bidroom, and the rest of the introduction I'm leaving up to him.
Thanks. Well, as Bidroom, we want to initiate a webinar, the I Meet Hotel conference. Of course, it makes sense as one of the founders of the company, you just want to attend as well. And directly the topic I want to address, and I said, okay, the one I think is really important to be part of is the sustainability part. So that's why I'm telling this one, and thanks again for the introduction. And I'm super happy to be here to speak more how I can see it, because it's, of course, we talked about the people, the profit, the planet, but there's more things which should be addressed. if we're going to start, I think when we're looking back at what is happening last month, and it's, if I see the messages also of the industry, Airbnb cuts a huge workforce. You can see TripAdvisor had to fire over 900 people, Expedia over 3,000 people. So a lot of things are happening actually in the industry. Of course, it's really bad is happening, people losing the job. We in Bidroom, we said, okay, we have to do it differently. Because we also, I think one of the things in sustainability and in sustainable is the people. And I said, okay, let's do it together. We can come strong out of this crisis if we are strong together. And we see that also opportunities. When I see, okay, when we saw what is happening in the industry, so we have to shift actually our focus. When we had a focus on user growth, I remember then when I presented to the whole team at the end of 2019, what are the goals of 2020? We said user growth. But of course, something came to us, and that is okay. We have to shift. Let's focus then in this case on the hotel growth, because that's the hotels need us actually to come back stronger at this period. We had the biggest growth hotels since ever, but also gave us time to improve our product. We saw also that our business model. I get text messages from other people in industries. Actually, your business model makes sense. I think that it's written in here. Our business model is also more sustainable. I think that's also really good to look into when you're building a business. Is it sustainable? Looking at business models, and of course, when you see the competition was happening, of course, also hotels are realizing what was happening during the years of the high commission, and it's something we're fighting for every day. But also in this case, when you see things changing, you also have to adopt. So it's okay. In this case, we see that people will travel less, and if they travel, they'll be more domestically. So let's focus also and target, in this case, also the domestic travel. So for us, of course, it's easier to target travelers, but also, of course, then shift your focus. And also, I think one more and super important to mention here is partnerships. And this is one of our most important ways to grow our business, but also how do we connect and how we cooperate together. And I think also when you look at the partners, tell about it more in a second, that selecting partners which actually fitting actually with your way of thinking about sustainability, I think is super, super important. Go back to our business model I mentioned before. Actually, the business is started and the company started because we want to make a fair business model. It must be sustainable. It must be a game changer. If you're looking at what's happening in the industry for years, hotels paying enormous commissions, 20%, 25%, sometimes even more, then they're adding genius rates, etc. So the commissions are extremely high nowadays. So when we built our business, of course, in the beginning, we didn't even know what kind of business model we want to address, but we want to make a sustainable business. Of course, later we came to a membership plan. I'll talk about it soon. But also you can see in this case, who's paying for it? It's the people. So the travelers are paying too much because hotels has to pay those high commissions. And what if there was no booking fee? What was if there was no commission for them? The hotels could actually invest in different things. Of course, they could give a better price to the user, but also they could reinvest or invest their money in refurbishment, maybe in more eco-friendly materials, maybe in better isolation, so they can improve also their standards, which help at the end all of us. And of course, I think it's also super important. They could be more control again of their brand. Looking at the technology, I think technology is really connected to sustainability. When I always think about sustainability, you think about the green earth, but also, of course, when you're thinking about like technology, it's super important to actually help and serve sustainability. When you're thinking about now, and especially now when you talk about hygienic stuff, you can think about how can you control your room, your checking, etc. With your mobile phone, how can you cast your own Siri to your TV? It also it's hygienic. You don't have to, in this case, use it or touch the remotes, etc. And it all helps each other. But also you can check in or check out with your phone, so that the room doesn't have to be, in this case, heated all day. So it also can really help the environment. During those days, also technology could help you to connect with your customers. And I think that's super important, especially in those days what we have now, to be loyal to your customers, to your partners, etc. But also in this case, engage with them. And I think technology is the best way in engaging them. And I think super important also, and then last year I saw a really good initiative also in Switzerland, but there are more out there in the world, waste management. I think this is also something really important to address, is waste management could actually help in two things. It helps, of course, the cost for the hotels, but more important, of course, the planet. So I think also you can see the technology which is now out there, could really also improve the waste management part. In here, I think also I mentioned before is the business model. And we said, okay, before we have to create a business model which is sustainable. And it helps us, of course, during this time that we have recurring income. And especially when you see our competitors actually get a few calls with them, like, can you tell more about your business model? Because it's also something that actually makes sense and what we knew before. You can see it's changing. And I remember the days when I was going to a shop years ago. I was buying my CD, my 10 euros spent for a CD. And in this case, I had only the CD. It was somewhere stored, and I had only 18 songs on it. Now you get access to something. You pay a recurring fee, and they give you access to unlimited songs. If you look at subscription models, and that's actually, you can see what's happening now recently. We're using here Zoom, which has a subscription model. The numbers of signups for the Netflix and the Spotify's last month increased rapidly. So you can see online subscription is also a more sustainable business model. I just mentioned before, when I bought a CD, it was one transaction you paid once. Now you're getting into relationship, but also help, of course, this whole customer engagement and this loyalty. So constantly, and technology is super important for this, create this relationship. So it's also really important during different times like now to create a relationship and stay in contact with your users, with your travelers or your partners. I mentioned our business model. Yes, it is different than travel. When we started years ago with this business model, everybody was thinking, you're going to ask a subscription fee for booking a hotel. You can go to Booking or Expedia. I can book a hotel as well. But you said, no, in this case, we have to have our income stream as well. But you're saving on travel all the time. So we don't have to charge high commissions. So at the end, there's a win-win. The traveler, after the first booking, they already saved on their travel journey, and the hotel makes some money. So actually, we're making both parties happy. And when we built a company, and of course, in 2017, we grew quite quick. We saw large numbers of users attending our platform. But then also we saw, okay, we're missing a huge number of hotels. 2017 is a great year. We won many awards. So things happened. We get a lot of attention for our company. But then we also realized if you don't have a huge number of hotels on board, this is crucial. And of course, if you've made the comparison with Netflix or Spotify, when you go to Netflix and you see a few series or Spotify and you're missing your favorite artist, you're going to unsubscribe. So we really had a strong focus also to make first this part super focused and make this part, make the inventory part as big as possible. The community, I think this people super important in a sustainable business. So we're creating also community where we actually connect the traveler directly with the hotel. Hotels for years, they're losing their control. They're losing their control about their pricing, about their brand. And we want to connect them directly again. So also we give to the user something extra than only the best price, which the hotels are providing. We also want to give them something extra in a membership. And that is something which is added value. And especially in times like now, you have to create value for your members or for your travelers. During the years, a lot of things happened. I speak often with Simon about it and other people in the streets. Years ago, it was difficult to get the hotels on board. But when you see now the shift, what is happening in the last years, they see actually the meaning and the purpose of our business model. You can see large chains like IHG, Winter, many more already joined, and more will follow soon. So also they believe in the sustainable business model which we have. And if you're looking at partners, it's super important for us to have as much partners as possible. They're also giving added value. So we also partner with car rental companies or fintech companies, in this case Visa, to provide something extra for their users. But also there's a huge focus on other partners, especially in sustainable partners. When you see the partners we're selecting, for us it's important to check partners, to work with partners who do something also in return for the environment, which actually is also have a business model from nowadays. I think people, I mentioned before, people was for us crucial. We didn't want to do layoffs like other companies. It's okay. When you're coming out of this crisis, we have to come back really strong. We want to come back stronger than we ever did before. And what is really needed in this time is people. And when I look back at sustainability in the company, the initiative that we have in the company by separating waste, by in this case, like any case that you can think about of reduction of of losing energy, etc. It comes from the employees. That makes me always proud when they come in with those initiatives to change it. And that's, I think, when you go back to sustainable, I think people and have a sustainable team around you is really important to have as well. I come in here to the end. One more time, the team voted. It's making me super proud. Below you see some awards we won, but I'm more than happy to answer the questions from Simon and the rest from the audience. Thank you.
Sorry, Michael, I was so focused on your presentation that I didn't even have the time to unmute and put my camera back on. And I would have hundreds of questions firing at you, and I don't need any more convincing of the Bidroom business model in any shape or form. And I'm really happy that we're seeing some creative initiatives within this industry. While you were talking, I just got the headlines from the Phocuswright update, and obviously me as a former CEO of Phocuswright, that's something I follow very closely. And the headline was, like it or not, your fate is in the hands of the OTAs going forward as a hotel owner. Mm-hmm. And I want to, it just came very spontaneous. And you and I, Michael, we know each other for a long time in different ways. I saw you as a startup in Lucerne, and you have prospered into an amazing company. First of all, I want to congratulate you for what you have achieved with your team and with your energy. I'm deeply impressed for what you have done. Also, you know, taking your staff along during these difficult times, and obviously have investors who totally believe in what you're trying to achieve, and you're doing this in a fresh manner. Second, I'm very sorry that I'm not wearing my Bidroom socks today, but they are safeguarded in my closet, and I'll wear them the next time I'll see you, hopefully physically very soon. So, is the life in the hands of the hotels and the life in the hands of the OTAs going forward?
Unfortunately, there's still monopoly or duopoly going on. If you see the control of booking, which is out there, and if you see the control of Expedia in the US, yes, they're controlling still the industry. And this is something we try to fight for every day. And I think the more channels out there, and an OTA doesn't always have to be bad, in my opinion. So I'm not particularly against OTAs, even though we call ourselves an OTC, online travel community. Doesn't have to be bad, but it's more bad if the conditions which they have is like increasing high commissions, and next to high commissions, we're forcing hotels with rate parity clauses, and I think that's the thing what has to be changed. And of course, now you can see initiative going on actually in this space by focusing on direct reservations, and I really support all of them. And I think the more diversity is coming into the travel space, and it's not. I always see that as a piece of cake, and we have a drawing on the wall. In Europe, it's pretty blue. You can see most bookings and from OTA coming from booking. And the more pieces are actually shared by different players, and if one of them is us and the other ones are different ones, I'm more than happy. I think it has to be more diverse. I think that's also, if you look at sustainable business for the hotels, coming back to this part, the more channels there are out there, which actually dividing the numbers of booking hotels, it makes it much stronger as well. And I think now, the duopoly which is out there, it's too dominant, and it's infecting on a bad way the hotel industry.
Absolutely, and as I said, we could dwell on that for a lot longer, Michael, and the verdict is not out yet. Obviously, our friends in Mountain View still have quite a bit of power to change that as well, and that's something that needs to be seen. Another aspect that I would like to address with you, you know, you're an investor-backed startup, and obviously you depend on investments for your growth. You have made a very good case where a lot of people are very interested in backing you and your team and what you have built so far. And one question I have to you is, you know, when it comes to, so we talk about sustainability on many different fronts. We talk about sustainability on the people side, on the environmental side, but also in terms of business. I mean, I'm more based in the vacation rental industry, and I have to say what we have seen for the last 3 months within the vacation rental, especially the short-term rental industry in urban, I mean, it has been a bloodbath, because there was no sustainability in terms of business, right? And you mentioned many times in your presentation the word sustainability. It could potentially become a swear word, but we try to safeguard it because it's a very beautiful word in many aspects. And I think during and hopefully post-COVID, sustainability will become part of how we think as an individual. How do we derive our values, how we travel, and what is important to us. But obviously, we have seen many bankruptcies, and I think we've only seen the start of it in many different industries. And obviously, the travel industry has been hit the hardest. And I would like to it's a long introduction to my question. I'm sorry, but it's important to put the context across. Sustainability in business. So, what is it? Is it growth or is it profit?
Growth. I think it's really clear. And I think if you're looking at the world we're living now, and that's bad that, for example, go back to the OTAs, I think Booking had last year 6 billion profit and they still had to fire a lot of people. We had a lose and we didn't fire people. So to be realistic, and yes, of course, I'm really grateful to the investors we have. And I think this first thing we did actually is getting all the investors together, all the shareholders together, and told them directly, like, we don't want to do major layoffs. We don't want to do layoffs. We want to come back stronger because I think this is the momentum for us. And we see what is happening in the industry. This could be a moment we can come out even stronger than before. Even though you see people signing up, we had a good growth of new members in April. Of course, the numbers of bookings is really limited. But it means also that people see the benefit of using our platform. So if you see what they're planning, I can't tell much about it now because it's like pretty confidential. But if you're looking at the TV channels, especially in the Netherlands in a few weeks, we're coming out really, really strong. And I think that's our focus was always growth, not profitability. And this is something, if you can grow good and healthy, profitability will come. But indeed, I fully agree that your shareholders and investors have to share this thoughts. And I'm happy that they all do. So,
but isn't profitability give you sustainability at the end of the day? Because if you don't have it next to growth, so I totally get that and what you mentioned. But at the end of the day, obviously you're a startup, you're still in growth mode, you're still funded, and obviously you want to go beyond. But I'm more talking about your audience in terms of, should we really focus, for one thing that is very interesting to me is that when we analyze revenue and yield management between airlines, hotels, and vacation rental, it's totally different because hotels have far higher fixed costs. And, if they fill 20 rooms, 30 rooms, 40 rooms, 100 rooms, they still have a ton of fixed costs. So any incremental revenue is an advantage to them. Whereas vacation rental has adopted the same system for airlines and hotels, which is totally stupid because every booking creates massive amount of variable costs because you need to do check-in, you need to do cleaning, you have the distribution costs and everything else to it. So how would you differentiate that? And if you speak to hotel owners, smaller hotel owners, when it comes to growth versus profitability, how can they juggle that? Because they have such a far higher fixed cost to run their operation because they need staff there, they need somebody at the reception and the food and beverage areas, and they need to clean the rooms, and obviously they have some higher variable costs the more bookings they have, but the variable cost component is far less. How does that translate to distribution, and what would you advise the hotels when it comes to profitability? So from a Bidroom standpoint, I could agree, but let's talk about hotels for a second.
Mm-hmm. I think this loyalty I mentioned before, but if go a little bit back in, what I want to address is like, we have, if you're looking at the other platform, they all focus on transactions. And airlines, of course, they have a huge operational cost. Other booking platforms, of course, they have recurring costs, but in this case, they're all only getting their money by having transactions. And if there's no transaction, the income is zero, which is logical. When you have subscription model like we do, so that's why we have to scale quick and grow quick. At the end, you have a sustainable, good numbers of travelers. So imagine you have 10 million travelers who's paying the recurring fee. You have a sustainable business, and that's it. You can focus on getting those people happy, giving them good inventory, and then your profitability starts. So it's also, I think, airlines is for also an example. They could think about similar business models. How can we, for example, ask our frequent travelers an X fee per year, and then they get different benefits. They don't pay for upgrades, or they pay less, or they get they can take more luggage with them. Hotels could be the same. Of course, it's better if they're joining our platform, but hotels could think about how can we create more loyalty with our members. So even hotels, okay, you're paying X amount of money, but then you get always cheaper rates. It also generates some recurring income from them, but at the end, on long term, it's more sustainable. So they're also less in crises like this, they have less issues than they have now, because you see also in the large hotel chain, they do massive layoffs or put them on a leave.
No.
I think also when hotels are looking at the business models, and I think one thing we did, sorry to interrupt, but one thing we did as well is we informed hotels. Now in this case, how can also still, when there's no bookings, how can you still make money? So we did an initiative, we made a cooperation with Uber Eats, we did more other cooperations. So this we advise actually, without even being a middleman, we advise hotels how you can still generate money during those difficult days which are out there now. So I think this is also, I think, a way of thinking what hotels could do, like, hey, I can also get still income on different revenue streams when it's getting difficult.
So we need to remain very flexible and looking at time and being very, very of time as well, because obviously we would like to give Cláudia some space as well. The one last question, and keep it short as you can, Michael. Do you think, and to the point of Christof, I mentioned COVID again, unfortunately, do you believe personally, deep in your heart, is travel behavior going to change post-COVID-19?
I hope yes. I think that's more, so I'm not if I look at my own opinion, I hope it will change. I think people appreciate travel more than they did before. I think travel is the most beautiful thing there is. It's an experience, it's something you always keep with you. And I think it was, you see some places, now keep it short, it was overcrowded. I think people hope they will enjoy travel again where it's meant to be, to explore cultures and to see beautiful things. I hope people enjoy travel more. Might travel less, but travel better. So let's see, but I hope it will change.
Excellent. Great closing word. Travel more conscious, travel less. I could not agree with you more. I've been traveling for 3 years, every week, at least 3 to 4 legs in an aircraft. And my kids are sick of my face because I haven't been home for 3 months. But that's exactly what's happening. So we need to rethink that. And I could not agree with you more, Michael. So thank you so much for your input. And I totally agree with you. But now let us move on to our last speaker, but definitely not final speaker in terms of importance. It's Cláudia Lisboa, technical coordinator at UNWTO. And I think it's super important to have UNWTO involved when it comes to sustainability. And I'm really looking forward to what she has to share with you in terms of sustainability when it comes to hospitality. So please, Cláudia, the word is to you in Madrid. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here. And if by any chance you stop hearing me, just let me know. As you might know, UNWTO is the UN agency that has the mandate of tourism. And we have been committed in working with all our partners to increase the positive impact of tourism. So forget about the over-tourism, and we pollute, and we use all the resources. We want to show how positive tourism can be. So during now, what I'm going to talk today is really just a small part of what we do in terms of sustainability and in terms of the environmental part of sustainability. And we, at the end, we will be sharing all the links of the relevant work that we do. We also very much believe that tourism contributes to the achievement of all the SDGs, even if we're going to be focusing more on responsible consumption and protection, so goal 12 and goal 13 climate change, and also Goal 17 on partnerships. Christof had already mentioned also earlier SDG 1, 5, and 8, which are also very important. So little by little you will see, and we have even a dedicated platform where we talk about the role of tourism for the achievement of SDGs. Okay, so when we start, I'm going to give you first an overview of where we were when we start working and what we have identified, and then we will show you a little bit our two tools that we have created to help hotels in improving their efficiency in terms of energy. So what we saw was that the big use of outdated technologies, especially in SME hotels, so making them less competitive. And also there was a big gap between available energy efficiency or renewable energy technologies and their actual use in hotels. In the past years, this has changed a bit, but it's still not there. And also we know that the energy saving potential in hotels has been estimated at 10 to 15% as average. The drivers that we identify are, of course, reduced energy costs, which are a big load of the cost after staff in the operational costs of an hotel, the independence of energy suppliers, so the possibility of deciding and also deciding the mix of energy that we could have, access to a new market segment, so the sustainability market, and individuals and companies are more asking for a greener or a more sustainable tourism, and also provide a competitive advantage over rivals. More recently, we have done another study where we analyze, among others, the corporate social responsibility in hospitality. And what we have as a confirmation is that competitiveness remains the main driver of sustainability for tourism companies. Having business operations and community support as the top areas of engagement, but also CSR activities are mostly related to an environmental or a social impact. So the economic is less important in the CSR actions than expected. Among the barriers that we have identified, and again, the situation has improved, but there are still gaps, and these are like the main challenges that sustainability still faces in hospitality. Technical, so lack of market offer of local provisions, lack of skills, like in the more social business sphere, the qualified personnel for maintenance, like of suitable information. There's of course the lack of funding and financing, and that is one of the main problems where what we want, we try to cultivate hotels to improve, but these costs and where do they find the funding for these changes? And of course, in terms of administrative or regulatory, simple example is you cannot have solar panels in a historical center of any country nowadays. So trying also to work on what we have found out while we been working in this part. We have come up with very simple solutions and more like common sense than anything. So understanding the energy consumption of a business will help to address any excesses, will identify what are the problems, will help to verify also the effectiveness of measures that are already in place. And these first assessments, they can be done by the users directly, by the owners of the hotels. And there are several tools online, and two of them will be the ones we'll be presenting soon. Also, improving equipment efficiency, so we can go from appropriate maintenance to replacing old equipment. But before performing any change, especially those that require a lot of funding, it's recommended to do an energy audit because it will give you a better overview of what is really necessary to improve the situation of the hotel. And sometimes the combination of small improvements might be more cost effective than a big investment. Of course, engaging staff, as they are the greatest contributor to energy efficiency because they are the ones how they behave and how they work. It's going to have an impact. And so if you have them actually well engaged, they will be your biggest ally. And on top, he has an effect because as people, they take the good practice home. So they will also be influencing their household and the things that they do at home. The same for involving the clients. Worldwide, clients are increasingly concerned and demand more sustainability standards and the services they use. So if they are informed of what they are or what is being done in a certain hotel, they will also feel more more concerned, and also they could be taking home these experiences, what they have seen, the good practices. So let's start with the first adventures, was the first initiative, the beginning of this is hotel energy solutions, where the idea was to increase the competitiveness, the sustainability, the responsibility, the brand value, or of course the profits, but also reduce cost, energy consumption, carbon footprint. And when we started working on this, there was almost nothing available. So we had to do all the research, we get our baselines, and it was extremely interesting, very, very hard work, but it was very interesting. And we were lucky to have as partners in this adventure the financing of the Intelligent Energy Europe program from the European Union, but also UN Environment, the French Environment and Energy Management Agency, the International Hotel and Restaurants Association, and the European Renewable Energy Council. So it was a synergy of competence, of points of view, and always trying to answer to this idea is understand how much we can save, measure how much the usage of the energy, compare results, and compare also results with other hotels, how we are progressing, profit from a cost-effective energy technology solutions available, and reduce costs on market and hotel activities. What we have also noticed is that one of the main problems that hotels have is, as they are small and medium enterprises, the majority, they had very little knowledge of the market, of what was available. So they were really much afraid, and they still have these afraid of engaging in and investing in things more and more costly. So we have integrated in the tool that we have created along this questionnaire. So very simple questions, very easy to understand, pop up information notes everywhere, so it's well explained. We have 6 steps of questions that will help to make a profile of the property, and then we will have energy related reports, energy solution reports, and the carbon footprint report as outputs. With a few more information, you have also the possibility to have a return on investment calculator tool that is extremely accurate and gives you a very good idea on if it is financially worthwhile to invest in a certain energy efficiency or renewable energy technology. When creating all all this information on all the tools that help to give the power to the users, so they are better educated and they can have better make better decisions. Of course we have realized that the majority of the energy consumption depends very much on the type of building. Also, of course, features and service provider and operations and functions, and also the location of the business. And this was taken into consideration in that in the questionnaire. As we cannot be still, we soon after were engaging with a new group of partners, and we moved from hotel energy solutions to nearly zero energy hotels. This time we had as project coordinator, the Technical University of Crete, but we had also the network of regions of Europe, the energy agent institutes of Croatia, Sustainable Sweden, Energies 2050, that is an NGO in France. So we had different also spectrums of the stakeholders, and different views and different competence, and everyone working together to give a response to the directive on the energy performance buildings. So the difference between AGS and NESE is that AGS is more broad and NESE concentrates more on the building. And what we had to also go through is to understand how these nearly zero energy buildings directive could be applied also for hotels, because as you may know, the directive gives you parameters of a minimum and maximum of what should be a nearly zero energy building, but then leaves up to the member states of the EU to decide on the typology of buildings. It doesn't give all type of buildings. So in some countries you already have hotels as considered and restaurants, but in the majority you don't. So that's what we tried to do, was to have policy recommendations to adapt this directive for the hotel sector, and also again empower the SME hotels to comply with this directive, which is not I want to do because I like it, but it's because it's mandatory now. So on what is energy hotel is the same thing as an energy perform as a building, with the typical use of a building. In this case, in an hotel, the typical energy use is the hosting functions plus the non-hosting functions, which make the mix more complicated. What we have done on analyzing the definition was to define parameters that we need to use, that we need to analyze, and build on the categories. And again, building on the Hotel and Energy Solutions tool, we have followed the same logic, so a very simple questionnaire that will allow the users to move and decide and see what is best for the hotel in order to improve. So the tool has a huge list of available measures that are nearly zero energy hotel related, with a reply to the questionnaire, which is going to narrow down, so in terms of country, region, the type of hotel, plus other questions that will create the profile of a specific hotel. It narrows down from all these measures to possible measures, and then with the system of a ranking tool, energy balances, and factor correction system in the back, and it will give the effective measures for a certain hotel. So it might not be the most expensive in the whole, but it might be a combination of 2 or 3 that really make the hotel reach or be closer to these parameters. Also, like Hotel Energy Solutions is not only the toolkit, is marketing tools, is training and capacity building, is a community. So the different possible actors can interact. So the idea was to put in contact the hotel owners on one end, but also the energy providers, the technology providers, and also the destinations, and have this dialogue for these 4 parts. So it's like having 2 worlds starting to talk. And that's why we think that partnerships is so important, not only public-private, but also private-private. We have also had some issued some recommendations that we have communicated them to the European Union, and it was supported by the Parliament and the Council of the Committee of Regions. As output, so we worked in 7 countries in this case. In the other, in Hotel Energy Solutions, we worked in 4 type of destinations. Here we went for countries specific. We had 16 pilot hotels that we also have accompanied them in creating a refurbishing plan, and in some cases also to find the financing and initiate the and start this refurbishing. And we had 4 hotels awarded at the end, 3 in Greece. They got a national prize in 2016, and another one from the north of Spain. And so why Hotel Energy Solutions and easy? So we tried in both of them to be very easy to use, free of charge online softwares that can be used by any type of accommodation in any country. There's been created by the UN and Europe leading tourism and energy agencies, so should be giving some assurance of quality. We have tested all those tools with blind audits, and the accuracy is extremely high for being an online tool. It can be used to identify also gaps in the sector and address shortfalls, like I've shown in the beginning. And it has been also used as reference to other projects, not in terms of research, but also in terms of the tools. Furthermore, and what is very important, it empowers users to better understand, plan for and invest in energy and renewable technologies, and provides communication tools to sensitize guests and evolve the staff. And we're going back to the beginning of my presentation as simple solutions that already help to move on. And this is just some reference I mentioned. So the European Committee of the Regions as an opinion document, and the EU Eco Management and Audit System, EMAS, has included also Hotel Energy Solutions in the tourism sector reference document, as well as some media coverage in Euronews a few years ago on Business Planet. We were featured at the same time as an hotel in Vienna, the Stadthalle Boutique Hotel, which is like a pioneer in all this adventure of sustainability. But sustainability as a whole, they don't look only on one part. They really went for it in one go. And Michaela Reiter has been with us working on this adventure since the beginning. And also last year we were contacted by Media Planet for their campaign, the annual campaign on careers in hospitality. And we have one article that is talking about these 2 tools. So I finish here. As you seen, was coffee free. Simon, I hope you're happy with me. And if there are any questions, I'm available.
Of course, I'm very happy. I'm just very mindful of time.
Sorry.
Great initiatives, so many opportunities and actions that can be taken. Zero emission hotels. I mean, that's the future. So thank you, Cláudia, for elaborating on what UNWTO is doing. As a closing question to you, Cláudia, being mindful of time is, you could say from an outset is, why is the adoption level so low from hotels, and what is the single biggest challenge for UNWTO to encourage more hotels to be part of this program?
This is totally up to the hotels to do it. This is what is good, because they are not the only tools that exist on the market. Depending on the countries, you have also associated with these certifications, which UNWTO doesn't do. I think what is interesting in these tools is that they are really easy to use. In all we have all the pilots that we have done. So in the second tool, in the nearly zero energy hotels, we only used 16 because we really wanted to pilot the whole process of creating a plan and refurbishing and funding the funding. That was the main objective. At the same time that we were again creating information parameters that were not available. In the first one, we tested in a different way. So we had destinations, so beach, mountain, rural, and city. So it was a different type of entry point. And then we have far more hotels. And we use all of them as guinea pigs, very nice guinea pigs for us, because they were the ones saying, I don't understand this question. I don't know what this means. the hotel energy solutions you have, it's available in English and French and Spanish. The NESE only exists in English for the moment, but honestly, they are really simple. We really tried to make them for people that are not used, exactly to break these ice of, I don't understand, I'm not going to do it. I am afraid of going to contact a technology provider and he tells me what he has in stock and I will be, so. And we are always very careful in saying, don't start changing things, especially those that require investment, even if it is a small investment, without doing an audit, because an audit is going really to see the nitty-gritties of your hotel.
Yeah,
and you'll say,
absolutely.
yeah, but because you can, we have seen during these years of working with different hotels, especially in the small ones, there's very goodwill. People really want to do. Funding is an issue. So either there are funds available. The only thing is that they are not well publicized. So people don't really know how to understand them. So there should be a little bit more help on the local level. Because the majority of the funds are also on local level, are not on international. But to understand, because there are different entry points. The example is this project. They were projects on energy, not on hotels. So that's how.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So that is one of the issues. Is also, okay. I mean, I think we cannot force, but. Sorry to pick up on COVID, but really now we have an opportunity. Sustainability should have been there. It's not something that should wake up with a COVID. But as we are defending at UNWTO, is we have the opportunity to rebuild, to be back better. And let's use the better part.
I mean, that is a great closing line, Cláudia. We have the opportunity to be back better. I couldn't have not closed this conference better than you. And I totally agree as a moderator, but being 12 minutes over, we really want to let the audience leave and take the best takeaways away. I mean, this has been amazing input for the entire audience on what's going on and what you can do. It's not just driven by cost, but yes, we can do a lot for sustainability. And I think Cláudia has alluded on that very clearly in her presentation. And now while we're driven by profits as well, and not just growth, to the point of Michael, I think it's now time to rethink in how we can build a sustainable hospitality product overall, with the helps and the initiatives of all the different organizations, associations, and others within the industry. So we are coming to a close. I would like to thank all the three speakers for their participation, for their presentation, for their priceless insight to iMeet Hotel conference today, moderated by Simon Lehmann from AGL Consulting, Swiss-based vacation rental and hospitality consulting firm. The next iMeet Hotel webinar will take place on Wednesday, 17th of June, and we'll talk about loyalty and subscription in travel and hospitality. And I think while any hospitality provider and travel intermediary is trying to look for direct bookings, this is going to be very valuable for the input. So we would like to thank you for having registered for this conference today. And we ask you to register for the next conference on www.imeethotel.com/webinar. So with that, I would like to close the conference. I thank you for your participation. I thank the speakers for the great valuable input that they have provided today. I would like to thank Chris behind the scene in Krakow to technically manage this conversation and this webinar. Very professional. I like working with you guys. Hope you stay well, stay safe, and pick up that business. It's coming back. Take care and have a good day in wherever you are.